Have you ever felt guilty without even knowing why? Like you're carrying something heavy but can't quite explain it? Maybe you've spent your life trying to keep everyone happy, fix what wasn't yours to fix, or be the strong one when you were falling apart inside. The hardest part? You thought that was normal. But what if I told you that not all guilt is real? That some of the weight you carry was never yours in the first place? Some of it was taught, inherited, whispered through silence. This video isn't here to point fingers. It's here to open your eyes. Because once you see where that guilt came from, you can finally start letting it go. So hit play, and if you want, just listen. You don't even have to watch. Let these words sit with you. And if something resonates, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep walking this journey with us. You don't have to carry what was never yours to begin with. Not anymore. Some kids grow up thinking they have to fix everything around them. When parents fight and say things like, "You're the reason I'm like this," or when a mother cries and says, "You're all I have," the child starts to believe they're the cause of all that pain. Even without understanding what's really going on, they feel responsible. It's like they're expected to save everyone. And that invisible weight doesn't go away. It grows up with them. They learn to stay quiet to avoid upsetting anyone. They smile even when it hurts. They try to be strong so others don't fall apart. It's like they become an emotional umbrella, trying to shield the whole family from the storm, but they're soaked and shivering underneath. The worst part? They think this is what love means. That love means carrying pain even when your own heart is breaking. And that feeling turns into a silent guilt that follows them into adulthood. Then they grow up, still trying to carry everyone else's pain, still trying to fix, to calm, to hold everything together. And when they can't, they feel like they failed. But the truth is, they were never supposed to carry that in the first place. That was never their job. But when you spend years being the strong one, you forget how to be anything else. And maybe, just maybe, the first step to healing is realizing you don't have to be the shield anymore. Some people grow up hearing they feel too much, think too deeply, or take things too personally. And little by little, they start to believe that their sensitivity is a problem. They feel ashamed for crying easily, for caring too much, or for being affected by things others seem to ignore. So they begin to hide it. They smile when they want to cry. They laugh to cover the discomfort. And deep down they feel guilty. Not for something they did, but for simply being who they are. That guilt shows up quietly. It doesn't shout. It lingers in the background like a whisper. Don't say that, you'll sound dramatic. Don't cry and they'll think you're weak. Over time, the person stops trusting their own emotions. They apologize for being too much. But sensitivity isn't a weakness. It's a sign of awareness. It's the ability to notice the invisible, to care when others turn away. And that should never be something to hide or feel ashamed of. Being sensitive is like having emotional superhearing. You catch what others miss. You feel what others suppress. You bring warmth, honesty, depth, things the world desperately needs. But when you're taught to silence that, you lose a piece of yourself. The truth is, your sensitivity is not something to fix. It's something to protect, to honor. Maybe it's time to stop hiding it and start seeing it for what it really is. A quiet, powerful kind of strength. Many people grow up believing that their worth depends on how useful they are to others. As children, they learned that being good meant being quiet, helpful, agreeable. Saying yes was rewarded. Saying no brought tension, disappointment, or silence. And so they adapted. They became the ones who always helped, who never complained, who made everyone else comfortable. But deep down, they began to disappear. Bit by bit, they forgot how to choose themselves. This pattern follows them into adulthood. They feel guilty for resting, for saying no, for setting even the smallest boundary. There's this silent belief that taking care of themselves is selfish, that their role is to serve, fix, support, and never need anything in return. They keep going until they're exhausted. And even then, they feel bad for being tired. It's like their value is tied to how much they do for others. But constantly giving without receiving isn't kindness, it's self-neglect. You see it in people who can't relax, even on vacation, who check their phones obsessively, always worried someone might need them, who can't enjoy their own peace without feeling guilty. But here's the truth. You are not a machine. You are not a service. You are a person. Your needs matter too. Learning to say no isn't about being rude. It's about remembering you exist. And your worth isn't measured by how much you give, especially when it costs your well-being. Some of the pain you carry didn't start with you. It was passed down. Maybe your parents never learned how to handle their emotions. Maybe they grew up holding back tears, hiding fears, and avoiding their own wounds. And when it was your turn to grow, they didn't know how to offer something different. So they handed you what they knew. Silence, pressure, guilt, fear. Not always with bad intentions, but it still left a mark. You became the emotional caretaker in the house. The one who listened, who held things together, who stayed quiet to keep the peace. You weren't allowed to just be a child. You had to be the therapist, the fixer, the calm one. It's like someone dropped a heavy suitcase in your hands without asking and said, "Carry this for us." And because you loved them, You did. But love shouldn't require that kind of sacrifice, especially from someone so small. That emotional weight still shows up. Maybe it looks like anxiety you can't explain. Maybe it's the constant pressure to be perfect. Maybe it's a sadness you don't understand. These feelings may not even be yours, just patterns inherited from people who didn't know better. But once you recognize that, you have a choice. You can start unpacking that suitcase. You can decide what stays and what goes, and finally, begin to carry only what truly belongs to you. After something painful, like a loss, a breakup, or someone getting sick, many people start asking themselves, could I have done more? It's a quiet kind of guilt, but it runs deep. You replay conversations, moments, missed chances. You wonder if one more call, one more hug, one different decision could have changed the outcome. Even when you know deep down that some things were never in your control, you still feel responsible. This kind of guilt usually grows in people who've always felt they had to carry others. The ones who believe they're supposed to fix everything, protect everyone, and when life doesn't go as hoped, they blame themselves. But that's an emotional trap, taking responsibility for things you never had power over. It's like trying to hold back the rain with your bare hands. Exhausting, impossible, and unfair to expect of yourself. A powerful step toward healing is asking honestly, what was really mine to carry? And what never was? That question alone can bring so much clarity. You may realize you did the best you could with what you knew, with what you had in the moment. That doesn't make you a failure. It makes you human. And sometimes forgiving yourself isn't about forgetting. It's about finally understanding the difference between responsibility and impossibility. Many people were raised being told not to cry, not to complain, not to talk about their pain. Be strong. Don't make a scene. No one wants to hear that. And so they learned to stay silent. They pushed down their feelings, held back their tears, and smiled when it hurt. But emotions don't disappear. They hide in the body, in the tight shoulders, the tired chest, the lump in the throat. And the worst part? Even now they feel guilty for speaking up. That guilt whispers things like, don't be dramatic, don't burden others. It's not that bad. So they keep quiet, even when their heart is heavy, even when they need help. They carry it all alone, thinking that silence is strength, but it's not. It's survival. And over time, the body starts to react. Chronic pain, fatigue, anxiety, or even illness. The body begins to scream what the mouth was never allowed to say, and they wonder why they're tired all the time. I've heard people say, I swallowed so much pain I didn't even notice I was sick. That's what silence can do. It can make you disappear inside your own life. That's why expressing yourself isn't weakness. It's release. It's healing, writing, talking, crying. It's all part of letting go. If you were taught to stay quiet, maybe it's time to unlearn that. Because your voice matters, and you don't need permission to feel. Not all guilt is the same. Real guilt shows up when we've truly hurt someone and our conscience tells us we need to make it right. It can be uncomfortable, but it has a purpose. It helps us grow. But there's another kind of guilt that doesn't come from what we've done. It comes from what we've been taught, learned guilt. That's the one that whispers, you're selfish for putting yourself first, or you should feel bad for saying no. It's not based on truth, it's based on conditioning. Learned guilt comes from childhood messages, cultural beliefs, or even family patterns. Maybe you were told that rest is laziness, that being happy means you're being ungrateful, that following your dreams is irresponsible, and so every time you take care of yourself or choose something different, you feel a strange kind of guilt, not because you did something wrong, but because it goes against what others expected from you. And that can be hard to untangle. A powerful question to ask yourself is this guilt really mine? Or did someone else teach me to carry it? When you pause and reflect, you start to see which thoughts don't belong to you. That's when healing begins. You can start to return what was never yours. Through therapy, through writing, through simply noticing. Letting go of learned guilt isn't selfish. It's reclaiming your freedom. Because you deserve to live without constantly apologizing for just being who you are. Letting go of guilt doesn't happen overnight, especially the kind you've carried for years without even realizing it wasn't yours. The first step is awareness. You need to pause and ask, why do I feel responsible for this? Sometimes just identifying the source already brings relief. Because once you see the pattern, the things you were taught to believe, the emotional weight others placed on you, you can finally begin to loosen your grip on it. There are simple ways to start releasing what doesn't belong to you. Writing is one of them. You can write a letter to someone who hurt you, to your younger self, or to the guilt itself. You don't need to send it, just get it out. Some people find power in rituals, like burning the letter, ripping it up, or burying it as a way of saying, I'm done carrying this. Others find healing in therapy, where they can speak freely, be heard, and begin to untangle what was never theirs to hold. Above all, speak to yourself with compassion. You didn't carry that guilt because you were weak. You did it because at some point you thought it was your job. You were just trying to survive, to keep peace, to be loved. But now you know better. And now you get to choose differently. Letting go of guilt isn't about blaming others. It's about finally choosing yourself. And that's not selfish. That's healing. From a young age, many people feel there's a right way to live, the job to choose, the way to behave, the path to follow. And when you choose something different, even if it's for your own well-being, guilt shows up. You start to wonder, am I disappointing them? Am I a failure for not following their plan? It's a quiet guilt, but heavy. It creeps in when your choices don't match what others imagined for you. This guilt doesn't come from doing something wrong. It comes from being different, from honoring who you really are instead of trying to fit someone else's mold. But that mold was never made for you. It's like being born a river, meant to flow freely, and being forced to become a straight road. At some point, something inside you starts to ache, and when you finally break away, even if it's for your own peace, the guilt still lingers. But you don't owe anyone the version of yourself that made them comfortable. You owe yourself honesty. You weren't born to fulfill someone else's dreams. You were born to live your truth, and that might mean disappointing some people, but it also means finally breathing. So if you feel guilt for choosing your own way, remember, freedom often feels uncomfortable at first, but it's the only place where you can truly become yourself. In today's world, it feels like you're expected to do everything. Work hard, stay productive, be available, stay strong, and somehow still smile through it all. And when you can't keep up, guilt creeps in. You start thinking, I should be able to handle this, or I'm being lazy. But here's the truth. You're not lazy. You're tired. You've been running on empty for too long, trying to meet impossible expectations no one should have to carry. This kind of guilt doesn't just come from within. It's shaped by the world around us. We're taught that our value is tied to our output, that resting is weakness, that slowing down means you're falling behind. So even when you pause to breathe, your mind keeps racing. You feel bad for taking a break. You judge yourself for needing help. But none of this means you failed. It means you're human. And being human comes with limits. Beautiful, necessary, sacred limits. Think about the last time you truly rested without guilt. It's rare, right? But it shouldn't be. Rest is not a reward. It's a requirement. You're not a machine. You don't exist just to produce, perform, or meet expectations. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to care for yourself. And maybe the real strength isn't in doing it all. It's in knowing when to pause, breathe, and remind yourself, I am enough, even when I do less. Sometimes, even when you know a relationship is toxic, walking away still feels like betrayal. You think, what if they change? Or am I being too harsh? The guilt shows up not because you did something wrong, but because you were taught to confuse being good with accepting everything. You were told to be patient, forgiving, to keep trying. But there comes a point when staying does more harm than leaving. It's like being in a burning house and feeling guilty for stepping outside. You still care about the person, but caring doesn't mean you have to stay where you're constantly being burned. Love doesn't require self-destruction. You can love someone and still decide they're not safe for you. That's not cruelty, that's self-respect. And yes, the guilt might come, but it's just the echo of old beliefs trying to hold you back from your healing. You're allowed to choose peace. You're allowed to protect your energy. Leaving doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've started caring about yourself too. And healing often means saying goodbye to the things and people that keep you stuck in pain. So if you're feeling guilt for walking away, remember, staying isn't always loyalty. Sometimes it's just fear. And choosing yourself is not selfish. It's a form of survival. Healing sounds beautiful, but when it starts to happen, it can bring up unexpected emotions. You begin setting boundaries, feeling lighter, making choices that finally serve you, and suddenly guilt appears. Am I being selfish? Am I leaving others behind? It's confusing. You thought healing would bring peace, but instead it brings discomfort, because for the first time you're doing things differently, and that can feel like betrayal to the version of you that always put others first. Sometimes guilt shows up because we're afraid of being judged. What if people don't understand the new me? What if they say I've changed? The truth is, you have changed. That's what healing does. It transforms you. And not everyone will accept that. Some people are more comfortable with the version of you that stayed small, silent, or overgiving. But you don't owe anyone your pain to make them feel safe. Your healing doesn't need their permission. It's okay to feel that guilt and still keep going. That feeling doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're stepping into a life that finally includes you. You're no longer abandoning yourself to be accepted. And yes, not everyone will walk beside you on this journey, but that's not a reason to stop. It's a reason to keep choosing yourself again and again. Because healing is not rejection. It's a homecoming. After going through so much pain, some people feel strange when life finally starts to feel good. Like happiness doesn't quite fit. Do I really deserve this? What if something bad happens now? It's like joy becomes suspicious, like it can't be trusted. So instead of enjoying the good moments, they brace for the worst. They downplay their wins, hold back their smiles, and quietly wonder if they're allowed to be okay. This kind of guilt doesn't come from the present. It comes from the past, from years of struggle, survival, and self-sacrifice. When all you've known is heaviness, lightness feels unfamiliar, even dangerous. But you weren't meant to suffer forever. You're not more worthy when you're broken. You're not a better person because you carry pain. You deserve to feel joy, to rest, to laugh, not in spite of what you've been through, but because of it. Think of happiness like a beautiful pair of shoes. Maybe you've been barefoot for so long, you're not sure how to wear them. They feel uncomfortable at first, but they're yours. And you don't need to shrink, explain, or apologize for growing into them. Being happy isn't a betrayal of your past. It's the reward for surviving it. So don't push it away. Let it stay. Because sometimes the most radical thing you can do is allow yourself to feel good. Now that you've heard all this, ask yourself honestly, how much of what you carry is really yours? How many of your thoughts, fears, and expectations were planted there by someone else? And if you could set that weight down, even for a moment, who might you become? You don't have to keep proving your worth. You don't need to feel guilty for choosing peace, for saying no, or for being happy. Healing doesn't require anyone's approval. It only asks for one thing, that you stop abandoning yourself. So, what are you going to do with this awareness now? Keep living the same story, or start writing a new one? If this video touched something inside you, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and don't forget to subscribe. This channel is a space for healing, truth, and deep reflection. And remember, you are not alone. Not in what you feel, and not in your journey to be free.